Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pharmaceutical Soccer. I hope you had an absolutely terrific holiday with the 4th of July being last week. I hope you got to enjoy that because we got to watch, unfortunately, an extremely brutal week of Nashville soccer, to say the least. I am, of course, here with Valer Shabila. Unfortunately, I do believe Clay will not be arriving on this episode because currently Clay is stuck in a hurricane. Um, and a lot of the times, internet and stuff doesn't work in a hurricane.
Often,
Often,
often. I've heard.
I
Yeah.
know that might be surprising news to you, if you are. But yeah, so Clay may not be on, and we also hope Clay is doing okay. Being in a hurricane is tough and not fun, I have to imagine. So yeah,
And he is okay to be fair. We should probably mention that. He's fine. But you know,
I mean,
hopefully he stays okay.
is he fine really though? I mean, I don't think the
Uh,
hurricane really.
let's hope he stays okay. Let's end it there on the Clay hurricane situation.
Well, Valer, you were not stuck in a hurricane over the weekend and such. How was your weekend? Fourth of July. How was your Fourth of July? How was your weekend?
Really fun, man. I'm here in Michigan. If you've been following along on my instant reactions and stuff, you've probably seen some cameos from nephews and well, a nephew at least. Yeah, I'm with my family here. Came in for the holiday a little bit and staying a little bit extra until going back home. It's been fun. I actually did fireworks this 4th of July. Not something I've done before. I've seen some fireworks, of course, during the 4th of July, but
I was like, what
I've
do you
never
mean you
needed
did
to.
fireworks?
Like I lit a lot of fireworks.
Okay.
Like I actively participated in this American tradition of fireworks. So and then yeah, we grilled a little bit. By we, I mean I just ate the food that was grilled. It was a good time. And yeah, some just good old family time. And unfortunately, some of them have been experiencing these NSC games with me. So they've been watching them. Especially my nephew who, has the jerseys and he's pretty much into NSC for someone who doesn't live in Nashville or Tennessee in general. But he's disappointed, and so are a lot of Nashville fans, from what I'm hearing at least. So yeah, it's been a fun family time for me.
It is really wild to because I've had a couple family members as well that I have put through this peril of becoming an NSC fan, and you start to feel guilty. I start to feel guilty because it's not an entertaining team to watch. They're going through a very strugglesome period right now. It is I feel bad.
I uh I want to go around. I never said to him that he has to be an NSC fan at no point. I did tell him that he has to be an Arsenal fan, which is almost worse. So I do feel guilty about that. So I understand that. But the NSC thing kind of came naturally to him. To be fair, for my nephew specifically, he was born in Nashville. So there's some connection there. But yeah,
Almost as bad. One of you finished second place in the league last year, and one of you just dropped 4 goals in the first half against Portland.
30
Uh,
minutes even. That's a record right there.
I had a good weekend as well. Obviously, watched a lot of soccer with Euros and Copa going on. It was a really good time, for me in that route. I kind of use this time to just relax and hang out, watch some soccer. Went and saw Inside Out 2 last night, which was really good, by the way.
As good as the first one?
It was just as good. No, I don't think
Okay.
better, but just as good. I think it knows what it's doing as a movie. And it's
Okay.
after the first one, you didn't necessarily know what it would be doing. The second one, you're like, oh, I know what's coming, but it still hits. So I thought it was pretty good.
Which
Anxiety,
emotion were you experiencing the most watching that NSC game?
embarrassment,
Embarrassed.
1000% embarrassment. That is absolutely correct. It was embarrassment, and embarrassment in Inside Out 2 was hilarious. Yeah, I look, and obviously last night having the match on a Sunday at 10:30 for both of us was weird.
Yeah.
I was just sitting in bed watching it, and then of course when those goals went in, it just turned into masochism for me where I'm like, nope, I'm just going to stay up and watch it because I'm not going to be able to sleep thinking about how bad this performance is. Um, But look, from play perspective, all the vibes are gone again. Literally have just disappeared. And I think that's been the frustrating thing for this team this year. And I've talked about it multiple times on this show is consistency. That consistency gets to a very tough point where there's nothing to build off of. We'll have matches where we'll get wins, and then there's just this happens. How do you build off of something like this, Flair?
Well, I think it's hard to build off anything. I keep going back to the same point. I don't want to just repeat myself, but Nashville are by all means a mid-table team. They perform as a mid-table team, and if you just can't let the highs you can't get too high on the highs and too lows on the lows. That's really it, because it's honestly as simple as playing a better team and not showing up at your best self. I mean, you look at Miami, you look at Columbus, those are teams fighting for supporter shield. Those are teams that are serious, they are winning, and they are doing it in style. Now, I do say that as Miami lost to Cincinnati 6-1 just this weekend. Before that, though, when they played Nashville, they were in a really good form. And as far as Columbus, same thing. You know, they're the reigning champs for a reason, and they looked like it on the pitch. And then the same thing goes with Portland Timbers, who their defense is really not a whole lot of anything elite, even anything good, even I would say, not even elite. Where their offense is elite, and the numbers support that if you look at how many goals they score. So all in all, I think it's just playing better competition and not matching up with it. Where in the past we've seen Nashville match up with lower and upper competition, kind of match up their play. Here, Nashville is kind of not doing that really. So when Portland gets better, Nashville is staying stagnant and doing the same mistake pretty much again and again and again. So I think what you look at it is you can't be looking at it like as one game or even two games, but just looking at the season, Nashville is in seventh place. That is where they belong because of the results they got. Yes, there are some refereeing things I'm sure we'll touch on. Yes, Portland goals kind of were wild to come in that succession. There are always exceptions at the end of the day. Nashville's a mid-table team doing mid-table things, which sometimes they win and sometimes they lose, but there's no you're terrible or you're good. It's always kind of in the middle when you look at a big picture.
Right. And I mean, the one thing that there are a couple things that scared me over this weekend, especially the Portland match that I haven't necessarily seen before, that I definitely want to go over, and I'm definitely angry about in some ways. But I definitely believe some of that consistency probably does come with just the team kind of just being in a, kind of limbo, for a while when it came to the coaching and what was going to happen. And I think they talked about it on the broadcast. Ruma doing a terrific job over the time that he was there as interim, 3-3-3, which I think is, fairly decent, especially for what you were given specifically. But it does seem like that is all going to change after the U.S. decided to blow it in their
They didn't decide to. Somebody decided for them.
I don't know. It seems like they decided to blow it themselves. But yeah, it got announced on Wednesday before the 4th of July, before the match against Columbus, that BJ Callahan will be the next manager of Nashville SC, the second ever manager. The 43-year-old who has never had head coaching experience, but has great experience with the league itself, and has coached with and has a lot of veteran experience in the league. So you do have a coach that does know MLS. Um, it's announced. A lot of people are very excited about this hire. It's a hire for me. I think we'll see. I think everything leads to it being a very good hire, but you don't know until you have to make sure it's a right fit. And I'm really hoping that the FO did realize that BJ Callahan would fit in with the players here and the rest of in what Nashville's all about.
Yeah, and I think that's where I'm coming at it from. When you look at if they made a decision, or at least that's what they kind of ended up making the decision of going with an MLS guy or a domestic guy, someone who knows soccer in America, someone who knows MLS. I do prefer this option than a known entity in MLS, I guess, except Bruce Arena, of course. But we'll get. I'll carry on now that he's not hired by Nashville SC. But if even somebody like Gio Savarese, which we know what he can do in MLS, we've seen him do it, and albeit really well, he does it well. That the excitement of what BJ Callahan brings, sort of the potential he has, to me, seeing Nashville take that risk is more exciting if you're talking about excitement. Now, if you're talking about more sure thing, I think somebody like Gio Savarese would be more of a higher floor, but also a lower ceiling, to where BJ Callahan, if you read anything about him or ask anybody about him who's worked with him, including Walker Zimmerman, who I asked him about his relationship with BJ Callahan, they have nothing but good words to say about him. And yeah, I know that's kind of common courtesy when you're asked about a colleague or a manager or something like that. But the way they say things, and the way, they can just say, oh, he's a nice guy, he deserves this opportunity, and move on. But when you look at what people are saying about BJ Callahan, it's a lot more than just that. It's stuff like nobody can outwork him, and people like Jim Curtin, who are um, MLS greats, really, in terms of coaching based on what he's done with Philadelphia, saying stuff like he was the first ever name I wanted to be on my coaching staff when I got the job. These are very high praises, and even Jim Curtin continued to say, like, when you ask Brendan Aronson and Mark McKenzie and these guys, BJ Callahan would take most of the credit of their development. This is very high praise. This is not just common courtesy of saying,
Right.
this is my colleague. So to me, that's the exciting part. That's the part where Nashville took that risk and took that excitement to kind of bring in something new to Geodis Park.
Yeah, I mean, like in all reality, we talked about it multiple times of, players in Nashville crediting Steve Guppy. And
Mhm.
Steve Guppy very much being, this guy that the players really looked up to. BJ Callahan is the Steve Guppy that we've wanted,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
see kind of in that role. He is a guy that Jim Curtin has been like, nope, this guy is it. Like he absolutely is it. He's going to do a terrific job. In the same way that like Hani Mukhtar and Jacob Schaffelberg have been like, no, my success in offense has been because of Steve Guppy. So we're giving BJ Callahan that chance, to prove himself in this league as a head coach. And I get more excited thinking about it, but I worried about the long termness of that project.
Yeah, and I think that's the word that kind of worries me as well, is that word project. BJ Callahan with Philadelphia Union and with the USMNT is definitely a project over a few years, work to improve the academy, work to improve certain players, all that. We keep hearing from Nashville that this is a win now team, right? This is players at a certain age. They can't afford to build something 3 years from now. They really can't. They have to capitalize on the current player pool
And
that
I
they
don't
have.
think we can afford to. I don't think Nashville SC is always going to be one of the teams that's spending fourth in the league. I think it's
Right.
literally just because of what the players that they've currently purchased. I don't think this can continue. Do you?
No, no, I don't think so. I think maybe top 10 in the league makes sense. But they often have said they're not going to spend as much as LAFC or Atlanta, so I'll take their word on it. So I do think there is a little bit of, he seems like a more of a long-term solution, which isn't a bad thing inherently, of course. But for Nashville SC, when you look at Hani Mukhtar, Walker Zimmerman, those are the two top players and their ages, then that's, you're looking at this season, next season to win something, rather than 4 years from now. At the same time, if he is able to build something young and exciting, and maybe it takes a little bit of time, but you see progress with it, which is the hard part, right? Is yeah, we know he can develop players, but can he get progress while he develops players? That's kind of going to be the biggest thing for BJ Callahan. And then the last thing I'll say is that I think the biggest testament that Nashville probably made the right decision, or at least not the wrong decision, is that if they hadn't gone BJ Callahan, I 100% believe another team in MLS would have hired him this season. At the very least next season, really early on, right? So I think that he's made himself really he gave himself a really good reputation based on what he did with the USMNT and Philadelphia Union, and what he's done with the players individually to earn himself an MLS coaching job. Nashville SC, I think, moved so quickly from Gary Smith to actually go and get him. And I believe that was their guy all along. I don't have any information on that, just how things work out. Knowing Mike Jacobs, knowing Nashville SC, and knowing BJ Callahan, this seems like a match made in heaven to me.
Yeah, I mean, look, BJ Callahan, even in the beginning of the season, was on a couple short lists for teams, DC United being one of them that he was on, but ended up not getting hired. Definitely scares me a little bit of why he wasn't picked in some of those places. But I mean, some people are not the right fit specifically in certain spots. So hopefully, our FO has taken the time that they'll definitely be talked about in this decision through and through when it comes to did they do the due diligence and get the right guy. Do you want to talk about just kind of like a little bit about just kind of his, managerial philosophy a little bit? Like, is there a certain formation that he really likes to run? Is there a certain style change that's going to be different from Nashville? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so first let me plug in my story that I wrote on Broadway Sports Media. So if you go in there, and the story is called "What Would BJ Callahan Bring to Nashville?" I go into a little bit of detail. It's not a long read at all, but it's a short and sweet one. But
It's a very
uh,
good read.
um,
I will give credit to a friend. It's a very good read when it comes to getting that information.
Thank you. But I will kind of essentially what it comes down to is that we don't know exactly what BJ Callahan style is specifically, but we can do our best to guess what his style would be. He's been interim head coach once in his entire career, and that's the highest sort of level he's ever had. And he did win the Nations League with the US doing that. But if you look at the Union games and you look at the USMNT games, they're clearly play different than Nashville. They want the ball more, and almost always they have an extra midfielder. So my hypothesis here is that when BJ Callahan takes over, I think we'll see a change in shape and change in formation as well. That said, I don't know if he's going to take over and say, well, I don't want to mess with something that's already been established. Let me give it a little bit of time and then move on to that, or have a more natural sort of progression to that. Or he's going to come in and say, I'm the coach. This is how I want to play. Let's do it this way. We've seen both approaches from new coaches in MLS and around the world. Even if you look at somebody like Arteta when he took over Arsenal, he didn't have the players to do what he wanted to do. So he didn't play the way he wants to play until like a season and a half into his career with Arsenal. So we don't know what he's going to do, but what we can assume is that you're going to get a lot more pressing from Nashville SC, which we've already kind of been seeing more from Rumba Montali's team. A lot of the counter pressing specifically right after they lose the ball, you'll see a lot more players running towards the ball rather than kind of going back to the defense. And then, like I said, an extra person in midfield is probably gonna happen. And then I really think that the long ball will see less and less of it as BJ Callahan gets more comfortable with Nashville SC. I think we'll see a lot of more interplay and shorter passes than the long ball that they kind of been relying on lately. So, well, not lately, throughout their history. So
Forever.
I think those are the main changes we'll see. Again, we haven't really had a whole lot of experience with him being a head coach, so we don't know for sure. But if I had to guess, those would be the main changes.
Well, definitely in midfield, I know an extra person would help out in the midfield for Nashville for sure. We also know where other people, joining something really helps, and that would be our Patreon. Yes, that might have been the worst segue that I've had out of all my Patreon segues, but
No way.
we're
That is worse.
but we did have somebody sign up for the Patreon over the past week as well. So thank you so much for doing that.
Nathan, thank you, Nathan. We appreciate you, Nathan. Nice picture, by the way. It's like all suited up. But Nathan joined our Patreon. It's $5 a month, of course, and it provides us a lot of support to keep this show running every week. We bring you episodes, even when one of us is in a hurricane and can't make it. So shout out to Nathan. I mean, maybe $5 a month doesn't seem like a lot to you guys, but to us, it means everything, especially when we have multiple people doing it. So the more you join the Patreon, the more content we can get you, and the better we can continue giving you this content. So be like Nathan, go sign up for our Patreon. Go to patreon.com/FormusSoccer.
And we'll be back after the break to talk about these two matches that we had over the week, unfortunately. But we will be back to talk about them. We also have a little bit of Euro and Copa stuff to talk about, as well as nobody coming to visit me on Saturday. And we'll do that next, right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer. And we are back right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer at PharmaSoccer on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can also check us out on Patreon, get a shout out on the show, as we did in the first segment. PharmaSoccer is where our Patreon is. It's just $5 a month. Helps keeps the lights on, keeps the light. I hate this. Anyways, pharmasoccer.com as well. You can check that out and find all of our information and all that stuff there. So let's talk about what happened last week, I guess. I don't want to, but we're going to. We'll start off for Wednesday. I'll have a few more things to talk about about the match last night against Portland, but we'll start off with Columbus, a 2-1 loss? 1-0?
2-0. What are you doing? You don't even know the result?
I forgot it. I was mainly thinking about last night's result, and I forgot about it. 2-0 loss, of course. I thought we got one goal in. Oh, wait, no, we did get one goal in there. I was thinking about what the result should have been, which it should have been 1-1, but I digress. Look, Columbus, one of the best teams in the league, if not the best, one of the best coaches in the league, if not the best. And for a team, on Wednesday coming into a match like that, hostile environment against a team that has been playing so terrifically, they looked way better than I thought they would.
Yeah, I think Nashville looked all right. And I think we need to mention that there was a 2-hour and 15-minute weather delay as well, which can't be fun for anyone involved.
Nope.
I mean, we've had our fair share of them in Nashville, right? But I think that also affected the players and sort of the fans as well, if you looked at the stands. But for Nashville specifically, I mean, they were able to somewhat hold their own. But I think at the end of the day, the quality that Columbus brought was very evident. When you look at Cucho Hernandez specifically, those are the players who step up and make the difference. But honestly, overall, even their more human players, I guess, not the superstars, they looked good. They looked comfortable. And Nashville, they tried their best, and you could see it, huffed and puffed and all of it. But they did. It took so much for Nashville to create that one goal scoring opportunity, and they scored that goal fair and square. I think it was I don't know why the ref. Well, I know why, but I don't know how the ref came to that conclusion that he needs to pull that goal back. Honestly puzzling. But it took so much from Nashville to create that opportunity, to get that opportunity, and to score it, to where for Columbus, it looked a lot more easy to create those opportunities and to finish them. And I mean, at the end of the day, Columbus outshot Nashville 20-7. So I don't want it to get lost in the referee thing that, Columbus played much better.
And I definitely get that. But those are the matches that the refs shouldn't have the ability to determine who wins and loses a game based on their performance. I agree. Columbus played absolutely better, but this is definitely one of those matches that is typical Nashville. Well, we're still, even though they played better, we're walking out of there with a draw based on our defensive ability and our ability to get at least one goal in. We would have done that if it wasn't for these referees, which this was the worst referee performance I've seen this year. That's even with pro referees being involved, the strike in the beginning. I will never understand, one, how VAR can review offsides to the toenail, but the ball going out of bounds, they can't review. That makes zero sense to me.
They can review. They just chose not to, I believe. I've seen it being reviewed before. It's just pure incompetence to me.
So they just decided not to review. I thought you're supposed to review all goal scoring opportunities, but they decided not to review that one where the Columbus player clearly went out of bounds, ball clearly went out of bounds, and they decided not to review it where the goal ended up coming from.
Yeah, Diego Rossi clearly did not keep that ball in bounds. And if he did, then they needed to show the evidence that he did, right? I mean, I think what the commentators kept saying was the angles we see here are the same angles the referees see. And
Right.
I don't know about you, but there was nothing that told me that ball was in.
Right.
So so
And
I
just like that, there was nothing that showed that there was zero evidence that showed that ball hit Tyler Boyd's hand.
right,
None.
right. And that's the part that frustrates me. I guess even with the first goal, albeit I think the ball did exit the field, and I think that should have been a goal kick. I think that I can somewhat understand. It was given on the field, you kind of continue to play, right? The
Yes.
goal comes in. It's unfortunate, but it happened. To where Tyler Boyd, it was given on the field.
Right.
So can we use the same logic here? That was kind of what I was thinking. If it's given on the field, unless you see clear evidence, clear and obvious evidence that you shouldn't have been given, then you don't give it. But there weren't those evidence. However, it was still called back.
Right, which
So
based
really
based on
tough.
the reviews, there was not clear evidence that that hit Tyler Boyd's hand, and I still don't think it did. Like even the evidence that I saw, I'm like, no, there's no way that hit Tyler Boyd's left hand.
And if you can't prove it, if you can't prove that it hit his hand, and you see the ball hitting his head and going in, then what are we doing?
I have no
What's
idea.
the point?
I have no idea. Like it was some of the most ridiculous like use of VAR that I've ever seen, and it's unfortunate because Tyler Boyd really did have a terrific game, really kind of coming into
Yeah,
his element a little bit more. I do think it's interesting. He reminds me of like the beginning of Randall Leal a little bit of, hey, him and Hani play the same position. How do you figure this out with him being on the field at the same time? And we'll talk a little bit more about that because I think when he came on for Nashville for Hani Mukhtar, I thought he was very dynamic against
yeah.
Portland as well. Um, but I'm liking the fact that him getting off of his injury now, him starting to play a lot more, he is starting to make a lot more of an effort in the midfield.
And you're finally seeing what Nashville paid for, right? I mean, that's what he was promised to be when he came into Nashville, and just hasn't been able to hit his form really. And we saw him really early in the season score in the first game and in the preseason, and then it kind of since then it hasn't really happened for him until now in the summer, where we're looking at sort of goals and assists, and even just in terms of play. I do think he's gonna be playing out wide, out wide. That's the position he prefers. So I don't think he's a threat to Hani Mukhtar, but I do agree with you in terms of how can he combine with Hani Mukhtar. And then the other thing I saw like yesterday, last night in the Vancouver, not Vancouver, Portland game,
Oh my
Cascade.
God, Valer, you don't even know what team we played against? This is crazy.
Okay. Okay. Like I saw a couple of mishit passes from Shaq Moore to Forster Ajago. And the only thing I can think about is that these two haven't really played with each other, right? So I think there's an element of that where it's like, well, how many minutes have Tyler Boyd and Hani Mukhtar been on the pitch together? And then if you take it even a step further, how many minutes have Tyler Boyd and Hani Mukhtar played with each other while Sam Surridge on the left wing? Then you're really narrowing it down, or in this formation or whatever you want to call it. So I think there's a lot of sort of chemistry and getting used to element of it, and where I'm gonna make this run on the right, you're gonna go in centrally or left or whatever it may be. And I think if they are able to figure that part out, and Randall Leal is, by the way, practicing again with the team, then I think that attack is going to look a lot more polished. And maybe that is something BJ Callahan can help figure out.
For sure.
Not to suggest that Robo Montali can't or isn't, but I think BJ Callahan is brought in to do that part specifically.
Yeah, for sure. I just think it sucks that we're having this conversation in July. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
does suck that like we're having this conversation in July about, hey, we need to make sure that the chemistry is there and everybody is working together and figuring stuff
yeah.
out. Where it's like, okay, half the season is now gone.
More than half. Yeah, yeah,
What is chemistry going to happen? And I do think it makes sense for BJ Callahan to come in during the League's Cup time, especially if you don't take the competition seriously, which I pray Nashville does not take the competition seriously and uses it as a time to see some of these different chemistry pairings, what BJ Callahan can do in terms of formation, who he can work with player wise. Like I do think he does have the ability to do a little bit more of that. with the League's Cup than he would in the league. So I think he comes in at the right time.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I'm not talking about League's Cup anymore. I need to talk about Portland, where Nashville did lose last night to Portland 4-1. 4 goals scored in the first half, with then a red card coming from Brian Anunga. But Sam Surridge getting a goal in the 81st minute to continue his goal scoring form, which I honestly think he didn't, out of all the players, he didn't look terrible last night. Look, I think we start off the conversation with the first 30 minutes of the match because I think we have to. And then I have a little bit of just, I don't know. I have a few players that like I would like to call out specifically. That, well, I mean, the entire defense needs to be called out specifically. But the first 15 minutes, Nashville looked pretty good. The way the pressing was being done, the way the balls were coming in, Sam Surridge with that opportunity in the first 10 minutes of the match, you didn't think the wheels would fall off like it did.
No, and Nashville were committing men forward, and they were very positive, very bright in their play. They went for it. The repress was on point. They were trying to keep Portland sort of uncomfortable and sort of in their own half for the most part, really. And they looked the better team for until the first Portland goal went in. But then the Portland goal, the first one on its own, was just terrible tracking, really. I mean, it was one of those things where, okay, you've committed men forward, but why are you playing like it's some sort of like 95th minute and you need a goal to win? It's the first 15 minutes. So like it needs to be and I'm not talking just about like numbers up top. I'm talking about the players and their reactions. There were slide tackles, there were last ditch efforts to get to the ball, to where you don't need that in 15 minutes. You don't need that early on in the game.
Right. This is the first match. This is the first match that I like have witnessed in a long time where I have been able to just. I normally don't like doing this, and we've had the conversation about this. This is the first match that I can absolutely say with conviction that the effort was not there. Like, I never like to say like players' effort is not there, but Shaq Moore making that commitment in that first goal and then literally jogging behind the player with the ball instead of trying to make that run back. Look, I understand that Roomba might be an interim manager, but I guarantee you Roomba's message was not, hey, after you try to make a tackle or a press or something, you should jog back and not make sure you get back into position. Because that's exactly what Shaq Moore did in that first goal.
Yeah, and I think even when you look at more veteran players like Walker Zimmerman, I mean, I don't think
Same thing.
I mean, he could have been much better on. I mean, honestly, all 4 goals. But what happened to me was the more mental part of it rather than anything physically, where there was this meltdown of Nashville SC players just unable to focus, unable to stay disciplined. And if anything, that's what this team should be known for, right?
Right.
I get it that you're upset you let in 2 goals, but you can't let that be the reason to let in a third and a fourth. That
No.
that was it was so frustrating to see the same goal almost, except one of them. All the other 3 all came from transition. It was almost like the same goal over and over again. And it was just like, well, yeah, Joe Willis is upset. He's yelling at his defenders because they just leave him out to
Right.
dry.
Well, it was ridiculous to see, like, literally, you could see a Portland player dribbling down one side of the field and then this giant open gap that you could drive a truck through on the other side. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, guess I know where the ball's going. Does Nashville's defense know where the ball's going? No idea. I also am not sure. I do think he's done many terrific things for this club. I appreciate his effort for sure. I'm not sure if Brian Anunga should play again.
He will probably play again. But I think there is a clear I think the Portland game doesn't define what he is very well, and I don't think that should define his Nashville career because of one game. Because if one thing, he is a little clumsy. He's known to get that yellow card, but he isn't known to get red cards. He isn't known to be reckless necessarily. And the one thing he brings is defensive stability, or he should bring, I should say. The biggest complaint has been his forward momentum. Well, when the one thing you're guaranteed to bring, you don't bring to the team when your team needs it the most, then yeah, somebody should have a conversation with him. Somebody, he should feel like his spot isn't safe for next
Right.
game or the next month. He should feel like Sean Davis and Amar Sejdic and Drew Yearwood are breathing down his neck, because that's how competition is built. When you make a mistake like that, you shouldn't be able to keep your spot. And I highly doubt he'll be able to keep this spot going forward. I do think that and the same way he lost his spot, his starting spot, let's just say, because he was starting in Portland, he can earn it back, right? And I think that's the part where a new coaching staff is going to make it easier for these players, because it's a blank slate, and that's what Walker Zimmerman said. That with BJ Callahan coming in, it's a blank slate. You can everything you've done is not, it doesn't matter. It's just more so you're gonna have to either prove it again or prove yourself for the first time in Nashville colors. So I think we're gonna see some changes from BJ Callahan. Is Top Brian Arunga a BJ Callahan player? I can't answer that with the information I have. What I can say is that BJ Callahan would want somebody who is a little bit more comfortable with the ball on his feet.
Yeah, and I think in general, I don't necessarily. I think that was embarrassing to do as the players on the field to Roomba Mentali. I don't think there's any sort of excuses that you could have. Guess what? Everybody had. I know travel's been tough, but guess what? Most teams had double weeks this week. Most teams are not used to this travel. It was a busy week. The level of effort that was given on that field on Saturday in the first half was just that's not on Roomba. That's not on, some of these play. Like it was just the worst half I've ever seen from Nashville
Yeah,
when it comes to the way they played.
I think that's fair to say. And I said the same thing. I think it's the worst half Nashville has ever played. If there is a silver lining for Roomba and for the players, which kind of they talked about a little bit after the game, is that the second half wasn't absolutely miserable. You go into the second half 4-0 down with a red card. I mean, all things indicate that Portland will go and score at least a couple more goals, right? And they came close and they had their chances. They missed their chances,
They should have
whatever.
scored
But,
three more
and they should have
goals.
scored. But I think Nashville will take, I don't know if pride is the right word, but will at least not be completely devastated.
Like going to get one goal, and it wasn't an easy goal to go get. I think it was something like a run of play that Nashville has been trying to build for a long time.
Yes.
That they were able to go and get that goal. And that was nice to see. It just sucks that was nice to see over after the worst first half ever.
And that's what Sam Surridge said. He said, based on how we performed in the second half, you would think that if we had 11 men and didn't do what we did in those 30 minutes, not even 30 minutes, like 20 minutes of complete, meltdown, we would have been able to win this game. That was Sam Surridge's, I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what he said, is that because of how the second half played out, because of how it even played out before the goals came in, it's just frustrating to see this team not be able to keep their head together and make these huge mistakes again and again and again and that meltdown. Look, when you're down 4-0, it's game over. I'm sorry. I know, believe and all that, and we've all seen sports movies, but it's over. The game was over. So for them to find something to keep them going, to stop the bleeding and even go get a goal, I'm not saying it's a good, it's not a good thing necessarily. It's just better than what it used to be. That's all.
Barcelona in the Champions League on aggregate would have words to say with you, but as they were down.
Well, they're not playing Portland at home this year, so I don't know. I don't know when they're gonna get that.
Oh, all right. Well, we talked about that. Do better. The Nashville does get they don't have a big week this week. They only have one match on Saturday back in the East Coast. We'll talk about that match as well as some Euro and Copa stuff. And we'll do that next right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer. And we are back right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer at Pharmasoccer on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can also follow us on our Patreon, which would be amazing. Again, $5 a month helps keep the lights on for us. We really appreciate it. Really love the support. Also, pharmasoccer.com. Look, as Nashville and MLS is still playing, which is still wild to me, there's two major competitions going on, the Euros and Copa America. I think we start with Copa America just because of the fact that that has some direct impact with Nashville SC. And I have a question for Valer in regards to this. Uh, Look, we were able to announce BJ Callahan earlier than expected because of the fact of the USA blew it when it came to Copa.
Yes, what was the question?
No, I don't have a question regarding to that. I just wanted it to
Oh,
be let out.
oh, okay. No, that was the prompt. Okay.
Yeah,
You
yeah, that
really
was just a
built up the
prompt.
question
No, I have a question coming up later. Well, I mean,
later.
okay. Well, I
Okay.
mean, I guess I could ask a question. Like, Greg
Okay.
Berhalter doesn't make it out, right?
No way. I said it last week. If they don't make it out of the group, no way. I think it'll be really hard to convince anyone to that he's the right man for the job at the moment, which is unfortunate, but it is. Again, I said it last week. I'm just gonna repeat this one bit. The contract ran out last summer. Everything he already took him to the World Cup. Everything's good. He succeeded in his mission a little bit at least. Cut ties, get a new coach. I don't know. Him coming back was so unnecessary. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about the USMNT because I'm sure there are a million other podcasts doing that. It was really disappointing though, especially seeing what Canada has done, even what Panama did by advancing to the next round. I think really puts in perspective how far back this USMNT team is and how bad they performed in this specific competition.
For sure. And I think there's a lot to talk about. Yeah, absolutely. I think U.S. men's national team, there's a lot of those. Go listen to those podcasts. They're going to cover that way better than we ever could. What they won't cover, though, better than us, is the Canadian men's national team because that is a team to talk about right now. I watched that game against Venezuela. Jacob Schaffelberg getting the goal as well, almost getting a second, which would have been wild. Anytime a Venezuelan player made a any sort of tackle against Shaffy, I got very, very upset. It was fun to see John Cadiz and Jacob Schaffelberg and Alistair Johnston on the same pitch as well.
Yeah,
It was fun to watch John Cadiz put one over the bar in an extreme fashion, even though he definitely should have put it on target. He did make his penalty, though, which is very nice to see. So good on you, John Cadiz, for making your penalty. My question for you, though, obviously, Jacob Schaffelberg's stock has gone up tremendously with this Copa America competition. I do think he's one of the best Canadian players that has been on the pitch so far. Anytime that he has come on the pitch for Canada has been absolutely terrific, which is why he's earned his start. How long do you think we have Jacob Schaffelberg in a Nashville kit?
I think it solely depends on what else he does when he comes back to Nashville and what else he does the next game at least or two for Canada if they win. Actually, I think Copa America has a third place game, so two games regardless. I think if he's able to score or assist in the semifinal of Copa America, a big competition like that, I think you're looking at more eyes on him. There are more scouts on him, more European eyes specifically on him. And then the second part of that is when he comes back to Nashville, what can he do on a club level on a consistent basis, week in, week out? That's been the part that he's struggled with a lot with in Nashville and in Toronto, is that staying consistent. We've talked about that a lot, but he's kind of in a similar way the BJ Callahan thing, where his ceiling is pretty high, and you can see that his talent can't take him to that ceiling. But it is going to be a risk. Now, every transfer is a risk, of course, for a team buying a player. But a lot of teams in Europe will be willing to take that risk, especially if you're talking about the prices of MLS players is not as expensive as European talents. So I think what he can do with BJ Callahan when he comes in, what he can do with Nashville will give us a better idea on how long he will be. If he comes to Nashville and he's firing on all cylinders, I think by December, I don't think he'll stay. I highly doubt he leaves this summer. I mean, it would have to be an incredible offer given to Nashville SC for them to let go of him before the season is over. I think December is possible. And I think next summer, if he continues this run and scores and assists for Nashville SC, then you're looking at next summer for sure for him going finding a new opportunity.
Yeah, I think we're used to the whole. I mean, we're used to Alistair Johnston being the one guy that was able to play throughout the season and able to get a big deal. I think Jacob Schaffelberg kind of fits that, and I think that's why that makes NSC fans nervous.
I will say this. I know NSC front office kind of likes having GAM and GAM is more important than actual cash. I do think from a reality perspective, I don't think Nashville SC are able to afford losing him to an MLS team. I really think that
Agreed.
would be a bad look for what they are trying to build here for Jacob Schaffelberg himself. And I think if they are sort of smart in their movement, I think the first thing they offer is a contract extension with a little bit of a raise. Hey, we'll give you an extra year, and here's double your salary because currently what he makes is, I believe, 250, which is not correct value of what he brings to the team. I think we can all agree on that. So yeah, so I think the right move for Netflix would be to say, hey, we're going to tack on a year or two to your contract, and here's a little bit of a raise to keep you here. And if an offer comes to you from Europe that meets our evaluation, then we will let you go. But I think the first move has to be renewing his contract or at least giving him a raise to make sure that he's happy staying at Nashville.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's a player that is absolutely loved by the fans here. Somebody that I think even, under a coach like BJ Callahan could become just a dominant player. So I'm excited to see what happens for him, with him. I'm excited to see what he does with Canada on tomorrow. He'll probably start against Argentina and see if he can keep up that same kind of performance against, a team like Argentina. It would be really cool to see. So shout out to Jacob Schaffelberg for the work that he's doing. I don't know, anything Euro to talk about when it comes to, I don't know, anything.
I've been surprised at the amount of games going to penalties. I in both Euros and Copa America, actually. I just think I don't know what that says. I don't know if that's saying that competition is getting tougher or that's saying that we don't have definite winners. Like, I just don't remember penalties being that big of a deal in either of those tournaments. I mean, obviously penalties exist in these tournaments, but like I just don't remember them being that often. And I just
Right.
feel like every game or every other game has a penalty shootout now. I think the Euros have been underwhelming in a lot of ways. Um, in the big teams. That's what I meant. Like when you look at
Yeah.
France and England, it's just I don't know. I said it last week. Like I want to see Kylian Mbappe be like good. Like
Not with a broken nose, right?
yeah, like that's why I watch these things is so Kylian Mbappe can do his thing. Obviously, the small underdog stories are great. Like Canada right now, this is a great story to follow. But the Euros were kind of done with the underdogs, really. When you look at it, it's all big power. So now I just want to see good soccer. And to be fair, the Spain and Germany game, I think that was the best game of the Euros. Incredible game. Really unfair to Germany in terms of the handball. I think there, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go take a look at it. But I do think there are some good games. I'm not saying the entire thing is underwhelming, but I do think these bigger teams, I kind of just expected more from them. Spain being the only exception where I expected less of, really, and then they came out swinging. Argentina hasn't looked that convincing, even when you look at the Copa America. And
No,
then
I think Colombia's look pretty good, even
yeah,
against Brazil, they look pretty good. But other than that, I'm with you. I don't think I think Uruguay in some ways has looked pretty good. But I will say one of the things with the difference between the Copa, I was really mad when Copa announced that after the extra time it would go straight to penalties. I'm not as mad watching it.
yeah, it does make it exciting.
It just makes that last half an hour, like the fact that anybody had to watch that last half an hour of England Switzerland was an embarrassment. Like the fact
Yeah,
that anybody had to watch that was ridiculous.
yeah.
So like
I
that
agree.
that match should have just, can you do it just based on like, I almost feel like it should be like managerial, like the managers have the ability to be like, no, we just want to go to penalties, let's just do that, instead of, no, we want to play the extra half an hour.
I like that. I like that. If they can't agree to a solution, then it goes to extra time anyway.
Yep.
If both managers are like, nope, we'll take our chances, then I think they
Then we
go
do it. Don't waste
penalties.
anybody's time, and it's perfect. Yeah, MLS, Copa, Common Bowl. Just contact me at PHStevenHD on Twitter. All of those, I will
Yeah.
iron out all the details for you. It's not that hard to have happen. But look, I'm excited. even though Nashville had one of the worst weeks last week, probably in performance that I mean, nobody else wanted to be a part of. I am super excited because I get to see Nashville SC in my home. This is going to be terrific. Where Nashville SC does get to play DC United. Who's coming to visit me? Oh, wait, nobody. That is correct.
Sure, some Nashville fans are.
I currently know of one.
Okay, there you go. That's not nobody. That's one.
Don't get me wrong. I love the one that is coming. I'm very excited because that would be shout out to Dick Strong for the best name ever to be coming to. I'm very excited about it. But shout out, yes, I'm excited. Look, and it's a winnable game for Nashville as well. DC United has been also terrible in regards to performances and not being able to keep performing, like just keep anything. I believe they lost to Cincinnati 5-1 on Wednesday. They lost 5-1 on Wednesday.
Yes, and then yes, they did, and then I think they lost on Saturday as well. I have it here.
It was Salt Lake, right? They played Salt Lake.
They lost 5-0 to Orlando on Saturday, and then 3-2 to Cincinnati on Wednesday.
So that's going to be fun.
They are bad. If you didn't know, they are the worst team in the East, and they are not the worst team in the league in terms of points because San Jose got 14 points only this whole season. A team that FOC drew at home, just as a reminder. And DC has 20 points, so they are 6 points better than San Jose. However, they are absolutely miserable at this point. They do have Benteke, who's one of the best, if not the best striker in the league, and he is scoring a lot of goals. But unfortunately for them, they let in way more than they score. They've also been averaging, I don't know what the actual average is, but what feels like a red card a game. At least the last two games have had one red card and some injury issues as well. So I think even though this is an away game with 6 days of rest, Nashville SC kind of having a little bit of a background in winning these games against lesser opponents this season. I think you're looking at a Nashville almost expectation to win away from home, which I know sounds ridiculous. It's not going to be easy by any means, but it's sure is easier than going to Portland.
Yeah, just to give you some understanding, DC United currently has the last goals against differential, goals against in the league specifically, where they have 47 goals scored against them. Nashville has 30. And that's even after the match against Portland. So we have the ability to score some goals here. Most matches we've been to DC a couple times just to watch matches here. They've been fairly boring. Not a lot of exciting things have happened here in DC for Nashville. It's a tough place to play. It's going to be warm probably on Saturday. I'm not excited to make that hike up the stands personally to that spot because it's hell. And anytime that I've been to a DC United match, I've just stared at that section, just being like, I'm ready to make the climb. But I think I'm in shape now. I think I'm starting to get in shape to be there. But yeah, I think it's a winnable game for Nashville. So with that, Blair, let's make the predictions that you have.
Yeah, I'll make my prediction in a second, but I will say that if you are considering going to an away trip, DC is a really fun city. I really love going there. As a city, the stadium is brand new too, so it's kind of nice. And DC, I just think it's a nice city. Go there. If you can't make it this year, make it next year or whatever.
I can confirm DC United is a fun city to be in.
DC United is a fun city.
DC is a fun city.
The District of Columbia. It's a fun district to be in. Let me rephrase my wording there. Follow me at Valer Shabila on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads if you're on there. And of course, subscribe to my channel on YouTube at Valer Shabila. I have all the Nashville coverage that you can imagine. My prediction is going to be actually a Nashville SC win. And I think it's going to be a wild one. Let's give it another 4-2 Nashville SC with a hat trick of Hani Mukhtar and 2 penalties out of that. So 1 open play goal for Hani Mukhtar, 2 penalties, and then the 4th goal will be scored by Sam Surridge. That's my prediction.
One of the reasons why DC is so great too is because I'm here. and you can come hang out with me. So if you are
Wow.
going to the match, please make sure at PHStevenHD to let me know. I can't wait. I haven't been able to chant and yell for this team in a long time. So I'm very excited. And also the DC tailgate is always a lot of fun beforehand. $10, all you can drink, hang out in a nice little conservation center that is right on the river. It's beautiful. I'm really excited to be there for it. I'm going to go the opposite just because of the fact that I tried to predict a 6-point week last week and that didn't work. So I'm going to try to do that. So I'm going to go 4-2 loss in hopes it's the other way. I think saying that out loud, it means probably not, but whatever, to each their own. But yeah, would love to see you again at PHStevenHD. Send out a message, let me know that you're making it out so I can come say hi to you. Would love to be able to do that. I'm excited. Yeah, I hope everybody has a really good week. Enjoys the Euros and Copas coming up. Shout out to Walker Zimmerman for making the Olympic team, by the way. We did not mention that, but shout out to Walker. And we'll be back next week to talk probably more about BJ Callahan, a little bit more about Nashville SC after that match, and hopefully we'll have Clay back on next week. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. Have a good rest of your week.
Bye bye.